My name is Dr. Stephen Jones. As an organizational psychologist and executive coach, I love to study what allows people to bring out the best in themselves and others. So join me as I welcome top leaders to uncover the future of leadership. Welcome to the LeaderSHYFT Secret, where top leaders reveal insights earned, unconventional wisdom gained, and transformational moments that have defined and redefined leadership. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Jones, and today's guest is a dedicated and engaged business leader, a leader driven by the values of exceptional service, collaboration, and innovation, Mr. Daniel Kuperschmid. Welcome to the LeaderSHYFT Secret podcast, Daniel.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Really excited for our conversation. Daniel and I are going to strive to uncover a few of the secrets of effective leadership. Daniel is recently the president and CEO of the San Diego Tourism Authority, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as I go into his introductions. So here's a little bit more about Daniel. Daniel was born in Bogota, Colombia, and raised in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts. Daniel currently, as I mentioned, serves since March of 2025 as the president and CEO of the San Diego Tourism Authority. Daniel is a 30-year Hyatt Hotel executive and has previously served as vice president of global asset management at Hyatt Hotels Corporation. In that role, he managed a global portfolio of 42 hotels. I want to learn how you do that. 42 hotels. Daniel has led on-site teams at Hyatt properties throughout the United States, including Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. Daniel previously served as the San Diego Tourism Authority board chair from 2019 to 2023. He currently serves as a board member for the San Diego Chamber of Commerce, the San Diego Regional EDC, Collins College of Hospitality Advisory Board, and is also a board member of Reality Changers, which, in full transparency, we are both board members of. So it's awesome to collaborate with you in that role. Daniel also enjoys being active and traveling with his family. Now, you have 2 kids. How long have you been married? And what's your wife and your kids' names?
So we got married in 2001. So 24 years this September.
Okay.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We have 2 amazing kids. My daughter, Sierra, just graduated college last Saturday. And my son is going to be a senior at Coronado High School coming up soon. His name is Bohlen, Bohlen.
Okay.
Family name. And my daughter's name's Sierra, and Stephanie is my wife.
Got it. And Daniel is also an active person, very much so. So really excited. Let's start off, Daniel, with talk a little bit about what is your passion for leadership and making an impact?
For me, it has always been when someone that I've worked with gets promoted or gets developed, and years later, you're having a beer or a glass of wine with them, and they say, God, you had such an impact on me, and you did this. And sometimes you don't even remember what you did. For me, the passion now, as that's happened over my career, is how do I make that? How do I do more of that? How do I help people get to a place that they're really happy with on the journey of leadership? So that's really what's inspired me over the years. And I worked early in my career. I worked for Hyatt in New Orleans, and it was a chaotic time in the business, and certainly in that hotel. And my director of sales kind of just took me under his arm and said, let me teach you how to play the game. And he used to always call it the game.
The game.
And how to play it and play it right. And he taught me things about how to drink at an event, how not to drink at an event, just all those pieces. And I still think back about Darren all the time and think, what a great leader. So that's what inspired me.
Yeah. So developing others and watching others ascend into their leadership.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. 42 hotels. Let's talk about this. So when you're leading across 42 hotels, what are one or two like critical skills that you would say you developed, or that is required, if you will, to lead at that level and at that scale?
Sure. So keep in mind, as an asset manager, your responsibility is the actual asset of those hotels. So the day-to-day operations and how to maximize revenue out of them or profit out of them. But you've got layers upon layers below you managing that. So really for what we looked at was, how can we position the hotel for sale? Yes. How do we buy a hotel and then maximize it and then sell it? So, but the same skills are there, right? For me, it has always been learning all the details, right? And through my career, I love to know how stuff works. Yes. And I don't think I'm the smartest guy by any means. I feel like if I learn the details and I can connect the dots, then I can lead later and find out what the capabilities are of each hotel, each organization might be. So I would tell you, for me, it's always been understanding the dots and connecting them and knowing the people and the capacity and then working within that framework to decide how to move the hotel forward. Okay.
Let's talk about the learning the people capacity piece. Say some more about what do you mean by that?
So I'm brand new in my current role. We have 72 colleagues at SDTA. Yes. And the first thing I'm doing is meeting with every single one of them for 30 minutes each.
Nice.
Now, you would think that the first 30 minutes you meet with your team is tell me what you do and how you do it and why you do it. That's not what I'm doing. I want to know where they were born. Nice. I want to know about their parents. I want to know them as people. In the last 5 minutes of the conversation, I say, okay, so what do you do in the organization? But you have to establish that trust first. And then the next meeting, I'm going to say, okay, tell me a little bit more about how this works and what you need. But you can't figure out the details of how the organization works without having a personal connection.
That's so good. Okay. LeaderSHYFT secret number 1. Leaders see and get to know their people first, and then connect the role that person is in. But if we were to say a people first approach is part of what I'm hearing and what you're saying.
Yeah, 100%.
100%?
Yeah.
Okay. Say some more about that.
So I worked, when I first became a general manager, I came from the sales side of the business. And so when you're a good salesperson, you can book business, they assume you're a good leader. That the two don't go together, you know. So then you become a leader and you kind of work through the sales side of leadership. And then you become a GM, and all of a sudden, instead of focusing on just selling, you've got engineering and housekeeping and lots of people that are looking at you for answers and pieces and parts. So I sat with Tim Lindgren, who was my boss at the time, and he said, it's the people first. So get to know them first and spend time with them. And so that becomes fun. That's knowing people's lives and what makes them tick really makes a difference. And so when I first became a general manager, I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, of all places. And I said, I want to have lunch with the housekeepers 3 at a time in the restaurant.
Yes.
Most of the housekeepers never been in the restaurant in their careers or at the building. And I had a translator, but I got to know those housekeepers. I knew their kids. I knew their stories. And so when I went to say, guys, I want to change the way we clean rooms, they said, okay, we'll give it a shot, Daniel. But if it doesn't work, we're going to tell you, you know, where it wasn't this, it was, hey, we're on it together. And so that's always been my way of connecting is knowing the people. And I did the same thing here in COVID at the Grand Hyatt San Diego. We laid off 1,000 people really quickly, as you know. And I couldn't connect with them. And I was really struggling with the pace of change and news And I knew they were sitting at home wondering what's happening in the world. So I started to do weekly videos that I'd send to the group. And I've had family members of those colleagues say, God, we couldn't wait for your video every Friday. And so it's important to me to have that connection.
Yeah. It's so powerful because I'm thinking some people in leadership roles think the org chart is the most important thing to understand at first. And you're going, the people in the organization is priority number one, right? To achieve the mission and to build that trust and that culture.
Yeah, 100%. I think if they trust you, they'll take risk.
Okay.
And that risk will inherently make you a better organization, whatever that looks like, right? Yeah. And so there's times where it doesn't always come that way, right? There are times where you're working with someone and you think that's the wrong fit in this organization. And so you're creating pressure and you're pushing and driving. But there's others where you have the relationship and you could push as hard as you want and watch them blossom. You know?
Yeah. And I would imagine when that trust is there and you have to push, sometimes it's, and this may not be the right place for you, right? Or the right position for you. But the push is trusted more than if you don't have that relationship.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Got it. I want to go back to, you said being a good salesperson is different than being a good leader. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so when you come up in sales, first of all, I'm not a social person. I know that might not seem like that.
I was like, okay.
But I was horrible. In the beginning, I couldn't go to reception. I didn't know how to talk to people. I thought small talk was a waste of time. And people started to coach me, find the most important person in the room, hang around them, get to know them. They'll introduce you. It'll be easier. And so that over time got easier and easier. But you don't learn how to lead people below you, right? So the only example you have is your boss or people that are around you. And your journey as a salesperson, you don't lead anyone until you're a director of sales. And then all of a sudden you got 8 or 10 or 20 people and you're like, okay, now what do I do? And do I have relationships with those people? And this is how I was, but let's go. Let's just book business. And the person down the hall might have kids, might have issues at home, might have a million things. And they'd come and I'd be like, 8 o'clock we start, let's go. And so until you get some sort of reps, if you will, then you gotta trip a little bit. And so that took me a while. I was not a great director of sales round one. I also didn't have a great boss at the time. So he was creating pressure on me and then I just kept pushing it harder down. And then over time, you start to work with people that say, hey, no, that's not how I want to be treated. And this is, it goes both ways. I really feel like people that work for leaders, it's their responsibility to make the leader good as well.
Yes. So both the leader supporting their development and them supporting the leader's effectiveness and success as well. So that's powerful. But I'm also hearing in what you're saying that you remain coachable.
I'm really coachable.
Okay.
And I feel like from all angles, I've always felt like my self-confidence was never strong enough. So I'm always questioning whether I'm good at what I do, which some would say that's a negative, and it probably is. I wish I had more confidence. But I love when people tell me, hey, that's not the way you're supposed to do that. And I ask for a lot of feedback to understand how to do it better.
Nice.
I don't think in COVID, I watched a video of a speaker that talked about vulnerability in leadership. And I kind of was like, what do you mean vulnerable? And that really changed me in COVID. I got to tell you, where I literally cried in front of my team of 8 people. And I would have never done that before. I would have told you crying is weakness. And I found that since COVID, being pretty transparent about, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm really nervous, has helped. And so maybe that's a little bit of the feedback too, right? And the coachability.
Yeah. I think that's so important, because one of the things that I'm interested in is kind of, what was your leadership approach like in a pre-COVID versus post-COVID, right? And you just kind of named one aspect of that. In a pre-murder of George Floyd, post-murder of George Floyd, pre-5 generations working in the workplace, kind of pre-AI, what are some of those shifts that you have found necessary, or that you've gone through in that what I like to call LeaderSHYFT?
Yeah.
Right. What would you say are 2 or 3 things, in addition to the vulnerability being one of those?
Yeah. So if we went back to details, right? Yeah. Again, not the smartest guy in the room. And so sometimes you're sitting in a room with your leadership team and they say, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? And the ability to say, help me understand, let me connect those dots. Early on in my career, mid-level manager, I micromanaged every detail, right? If we said the guest was going to arrive on the front drive at 12 o'clock, was their room clean at 11:55, like all those details, I would micromanage them beyond belief. And then I've shifted that to, once I understand the details and how it all works, now I don't have to necessarily manage them, because they know what the expectation is, and I can lift up and sort of look a little bit higher level, if you will. So I think the ability to transition from micromanager to staying connected, but leading or setting the North Star. So I think that's one big one. Pre and post COVID is certainly vulnerability. George Floyd was interesting, right? It was at the same time as COVID. So the world was kind of upside down. We had been doing some work at the Grand Hyatt San Diego around DBRGs, diverse business groups. Pre-COVID, we had a very strong Women at Hyatt program. And then we had a couple other programs that they weren't really hitting. And I don't know if it was because of George Floyd, because it was the president of Hyatt, Mark Koplamazian, basically did a video to all of us and said, look, if you don't believe in diversity, this is not the place for you. And I remember the hair on the back of my neck stood up like chills of, wow, that's a statement, and bold. And so through that process, hotels were closed and it was a mess. I really started to lean into the diverse business groups and enjoyed the development of those groups. And all of a sudden realized that diversity crossed, the groups crossed. So while you might have had women at Hyatt, women at Hyatt were also in Latinos at Hyatt. And I remember sitting in that room, and you had high pride in there too. And you were like, wow, it's all coming together in a really cool way. So I really enjoyed that work and felt the purpose of it. A hotel with 1,000 colleagues. Sometimes you could feel really lonely first day on the job with 1,000 colleagues. The DBRGs didn't make you feel that way. You felt plugged in immediately.
Very good. Very good. So as you were talking, I was thinking, like, I think sometimes people hear the word diversity and they forget that we're talking about employees. Right.
That's exactly right.
And we're talking about, we go back to your point around people first, right? This is about people first. And the people have multiple identities, to your point, right? And so that idea of saying, how do you invite the housekeeping staff to sit with you in the restaurant is both an equity issue, it's an inclusion issue, right? And it's how do we solve, and how am I an effective leader? Is that fair?
It's very fair.
Very good. Very good.
I've been accused of knowing the lower level staff better than I know my direct reports sometimes. And over time, I've tried to, and I think about it as you were talking through the housekeeper piece just now, it made me sort of reflect when I was at the Grand Hyatt San Diego. It would frustrate my direct leaders that I would know something before they might because of a relationship. And so I had to be, I over time, I started to have to be careful of those relationships were really important, still are to this day, but making sure that the leader below me was as engaged, right? It forced their engagement a little bit.
Yes. And that to me becomes about effectively leading leaders.
Yeah.
Right. And ensuring that the leaders were engaged, right? Versus you not having that connection and the leaders allowed to be less engaged. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's powerful.
And if you don't lead the leaders right, then you just become the only leader because everyone goes around. So you've got to find a way to hold them accountable so that even though you have the relationship, those colleagues are going to that leader first, again, training the leader.
That's right.
From the bottom and from the top.
Yes. Say more about leader holding leaders accountable. What are one or two things that, and I'm thinking about the viewer who's in that role, who may not view that as much of a priority or may just not know how to do that. So what is one or two things that becomes important for a leader to do or understand when they're leading leaders?
So I think leading leaders it again starts with knowing them, right? And knowing all pieces and parts of them, right? The personal side, what's happening at home, and then what's at work, and what makes them tick. But weekly meetings, to me, the weekly meeting is the king of knowing your leader and holding them accountable, right? And so there's holding them accountable for process, the P&L, there's those pieces, those are easy, right? Like, okay, well, how come the P&L is looking like this? But when you talk about people and how they lead people, and so I don't know, I would love to tell you it was on a calendar for me, but every few one-on-ones, I'd say, tell me about your team. What's happening with your team? And then I usually would know something that was happening, so I could poke and say, this is what I'm hearing. Is that what you're hearing? And so I could validate and then say, how about we go this direction? Or so that's really how I always manage it. And those one-on-ones are, to me, critical.
That's awesome.
The other thing that I think is really important with your direct leaders is frank conversation at your leadership meeting. And I like that once a week. And it's really talking about, you know what? The HR director's having this challenge in this department with these people, and that's open and in front of the other 8 main leaders, right? And I think those meetings are critically important to hearing all the voices about everybody in the hotel on a regular basis.
That's so good, because what you just said brings up kind of creating that environment among your direct team, right? Of your executive team, your leadership team, where folks are willing to be frank, which to me includes a level of psychological safety and trust. Right? One or two things around how do you build that culture, that environment to support that frankness and that trust?
Yeah, that's not easy.
Right.
And I don't necessarily know that I've solved that. I think it's really when you're sitting at the table and you see the person that's not speaking. And then you say, okay, so what are you thinking over there? And helping them to bring it out, and protecting them for bringing it out, right? So making sure that you don't have fireworks at the table, back room conversations later, because the more we get everyone talking, the better. It doesn't always work though, right? You know some of that backroom chatters happen, but you've got to try to, it'll come up in your one-on-ones. Hey, an LC such and such said this, and we didn't like how it was said. Okay, well, why don't you go back to them and have that conversation directly? So I think that's really where it happens. So I don't know if that's it's not a check the box. It's kind of feeling it as you go.
Absolutely. Well, I love what you're saying, because one, I want to pull out the focus on operations, P&L, and people. So one, as you describe it, putting people on the same priority level as those other two. So many meetings, right? People look at, I'm blanking on the term. There's a term for it, but it's the idea that what gets
measured gets done.
Yes, what gets measured gets done. What gets expected what gets inspected gets inspected. Yeah. I'm not finding it, but it's that idea of when you as a leader simply make that a priority, then that sends the signal that the folks around the table need to be prepared to have that conversation, to have that as an area of focus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes, I love your point, it's not about a check the box. It's about effective leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. We hired when we were at Manchester, coming out of COVID, about 2.5 years outside of COVID, there were silos. We had a team of incredible leaders. Each one of them in their own respect could be general managers.
Yes.
So they could operate in their silo without talking to the next person next to them. Yes. And you could see how that was really sort of damaging to collaboration across people below them.
Yes.
And we hired a company that took us offsite and made us learn each other. Yes. Like literally learn who Daniel was at the core and the things that mattered. So all of a sudden that meeting got a little bit easier. We had 3 sessions, got just a little bit easier, made people uncomfortable. I remember at the time I had this one person on the team, we had to draw a river of our life and then explain the river of your life. And so everyone had a different river. And his river was this straight line just down a paper, essentially. And he had to explain it. He said, it's been a pretty linear life for me. And that's all I got. And the coach said, that's all you got? You don't have to add any more. It's okay. And all of a sudden, the rest of the room was like, oh, I understand how he works a little bit. Like, so I think that helps break down those barriers in the room too.
That's awesome. That's really, really good. Because in that, there was no judgment around the way he presented himself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. What do you think leaders miss? Like, I'm thinking about pitfalls, potholes, and what are some things that you've seen in your career that causes leaders to fail or fumble?
I think it's ego. I think as you elevate, it's easy to be the king, right? Yeah. It's easy to be the top dog and my way, the highway. And I think all of a sudden you stop paying attention to the day-to-day, the people, the work, and you start to lose focus. So it could be ego that, I got it and you're not listening. Or it could be, I got it and you're kind of just punching the clock each day and you're not pushing, And so I think you just I think comfortable is bad. Yeah. And I think ego is bad.
Okay.
And I check my ego. I have a low self-esteem, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have no ego. Yes. And so you've got to be careful constantly saying, is my ego talking or not?
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Give me 2 more.
Trying to think about people I've worked for that I've struggled with. I think I guess I'd say it's always a balance, right? I've worked for some really people that are really focused on the metrics. Well, look what I did. Look what I did. I'm better than the next guy. Look what I did. And then when you start to, when you get to know the person, you dig a little, it's all smoke and mirrors. And so the honesty of leadership and the ability, which one of the things that's always frustrated me about running hotels is it's never perfect. So your score might be, your customer service score might be great this week, but next week it's not going to be. And so I guess what I'm trying to, I don't know how to put that together in a nice soundbite, but I think about it like, but the humbleness of being proud of your results, but also the guy that's next to you that's not having the great results and saying, hey, come with me. This is what I went through the same thing. You know, that camaraderie, it's super lonely at the top.
Yeah.
And I know people say that. I have a really good friend of mine who just became a general manager, and they could not wait to be a general manager. If I heard, oh, I'm never going to be a GM, and I'd say, calm down, you got to get to be a GM. And now they're in a GM role, and the only thing I've said is make sure you're talking to people, because you could get lonely and then you silo yourself. And so I don't know. For me, in my new role, leaving corporate America, you had structure. You had, hey, I'm thinking about changing this. There was someone in Chicago in the corporate office that would say, let's do this, this, and this. Like, it was kind of, now in a nonprofit, you're kind of on your own. It's your own business. Even though there's other destination management organizations, there's not a lot of like continuity between them. And they're very different. And so for me now, I find myself really reaching out to people I don't even know to say, how do you do this?
Yes. Very good. Very good. I'm thinking a lot about what you said about the person whose numbers are great one week. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, if you're braggadocious, I think that's the technical, right? About that, and you become self-focused around only looking at your experience versus your colleagues and what they're going through, right? Then in my mind, that's the path towards silos.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Versus what you described as the person who's like, here's what I did. How do I share that with my colleagues to support their success?
Yeah.
100%.
And those underneath you, right? So the customer service scores are usually driven by a department, a division, but that division needs to work with 3 other divisions to make that happen. And so there's dark days sometimes from one to the other, or from one leader to the next. And so being able to share in, I've been where you are, because sometimes you're just like, God, why can't I make it work? If you reach a hand over and say, okay, I got you, here's where we're going.
That's right. That's good. That's really good. I saw a speaker once who said, the leadership lens requires a shift from I to we.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's right. Yeah. You know, I have a learning disability.
Okay.
It's called systemic sequencing. So I don't necessarily read very well.
Okay.
I also don't, if you give me a list of 5 things to do verbally, I might not do them in order, and I might miss 2 or 3 of them in the process. And so over time, I think because of my learning disability, it could never be I, because I didn't have the necessary skills. I depended on people that had so much more sort of bandwidth, if you will, in certain areas. So I think I to we is correct. And luckily for me, because of my disability, I didn't necessarily have to get to we.
Yes. That's powerful as a way as well of looking at what some people might view as a negative, to really say that has allowed me to develop a skill of navigating the world that feeds and fuels my leadership.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To be effective. Wow. Can you talk a little bit about how has managing that difference impacted you as a leader over your career?
I think to kind of what we kind of talked about, I think it's forced me where I know my weakness is, I work with others to fill that weakness or that void over time. and I've learned tricks, right? So every time I have a new boss, I say, now listen, if we're on the phone and I don't have a pad and a pen, and you give me a list of things to do, it ain't going to get done. So you got to give me a second to go get a pen, no matter how fast you're talking.
Very good.
So it's those little tricks of trade. But I think it goes back to knowing the people and knowing the bandwidth. And a lot of my current job, 90 days in roughly, is getting to know the people and the bandwidth of those people, so that when I'm in a situation where I'm like, I don't know how to get this done, who do I call?
Yes.
So I think that it's maybe by osmosis or need that I've learned to acclimate, because I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah, it's so good. We had an earlier guest, Carl Garman, President and CEO of GLH Capital. And he talked about a strategy from a book he read a while ago that was, he thinks about who, not how. Yeah. And he says, when I have a challenge or a project, instead of thinking first about how to get it done, I think first about who can help me get it done.
Yeah.
And that comes to mind in what you just said, right? As an important thing for leaders to think about and remember.
Yeah.
Right. Which then supports I don't think about how I get it done. I think about how do we, who can help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who else can help us get it done.
Yeah. It's what's most frustrating right now in my role.
Yes.
Because I'll go meet with a stakeholder in the community that'll say, and we'll have this great creative conversation of how to make the community better or something. And then I'll go back to my office and I'll think, okay, who do I talk to on my team to do that? Because there's the obvious, like because of title, and then there's are they going to feel it the way I feel it,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. What would you say is Daniel Kuperschmid's superpower?
Oh, connecting with people.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Getting to know people, connecting with people, meeting them where they are.
Yes.
Making sure they feel seen. That's, and I didn't believe it.
Okay.
I've always known that it was important to me, so I just did it. And certainly going back to early days of GM of, know the people.
Yes.
And when I left Manchester Grand Hyatt to go to corporate, I had a going away party. And you've had a million going away parties in your life. You move on to the next city. I said, I don't want to do this. But I'd been there 7 years. We'd gone through COVID, and the team said, no, you got to say goodbye to the team. So slow Tuesday, like the hotel's running no occupancy. And my party's going to be across the other tower. And they said, hey, we're going to come get you at whatever time. We go down the elevator, and the lobby of the Grand Hyatt, which you've been in, has 1,000 colleagues lined up. I'd start clapping.
Oh my God.
And I never knew that. I didn't know until that moment that I had a connection with those people to the level that I did. And a lot of them weren't working because it was dead in the hotel. And that finally proved to me that I had that ability.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Especially unexpected, unsolicited. And I think about one, folks didn't have to do that. They didn't have to show up. And many times when they're required to by leaders that they don't feel that connection to, they don't.
Yeah.
Right? And so, wow.
Yeah. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like nothing ever.
And imagine if you had not, or if you had gone with what your preference was versus what was needed for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Right. Again, that I versus we shift.
Yeah. The team kept saying, no, they want to say goodbye. They want to be able to say goodbye. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm going to be living here. We'll see them. And it was really important.
Yeah. Yeah. It so reminds me of I can't lead only with what I know, right? I've got to be open to letting things I don't know influence how I lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Powerful.
I'll tell you, knowing what everyone else knows and letting that information in is really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get frustrated as I get older and I'm around super smart people, and you're talking to people and they can pull out data, knowledge.
Yes.
Like, how did you know that? History knowledge.
Yes.
How do you remember that, And so if you just thought about it as simple as that, there's a lot of knowledge that you don't have that others do. So just tap into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you were talking to someone, and I'm thinking about 3 levels, someone who's at the beginning of their leadership career, someone who's like a mid-career, mid-manager person, and then someone who's more seasoned. What's one coaching tip, if you will, that you might give them kind of in each of the stages of their leadership role?
I think in the first stage, right? Early stage, starting out as a beginning leader, I think it's all about learn, ask questions, make sure you're in the right business, the right field. I think about how many people we've hired over the years in entry-level positions, and 18 months in, they leave and they go to a completely different career. And so where were we in that journey with them? And were they asking all the right questions, and was it the right fit? And certainly everyone goes through that. My daughter's going to go through that. That's a process, but I think it's about asking questions and really understanding what those next levels look like in the organization. So questions, learning, head down, do the work, right? And I think in middle management that, you're in it 3-5 years and now you're a department head. And I've interviewed so many people into that role, and they tell me all the great ideas, what they're going to do in their new job. And I say, okay, now just go do it.
Yes.
Fast forward 2 years, most of them haven't done it. They haven't said, I'm going to be this leader, and in the interview, and then 2 years later, they're not there. And so for me, it is do it, guys. Like just do what you think is the right thing and report. If it didn't work, say it. If it did work, say it. But I think so many times they get worried about the politics of passing the senior leader or upsetting the apple cart, and I think if they just ran it and did it quickly with all the right things, right? I'm not saying just upset the apple cart to upset it. But I think they get nervous in that middle management, and then that burns them out, right? I feel like you're on this rat race and you're not making a difference, and it just, you get burned out. And the senior side, I think it's about collaborating. It's interesting as a CEO now, right? It's so weird to say that. But there's a lot of CEO groups around San Diego, and I've really enjoyed plugging into some of those. The beauty in this community is it's such a welcoming community. So they're like, hey, you want to come to our group? You want to come to our group? But it's nice to communicate with others that are in the same kind of role that I'm in and see what they're doing. And so I think once you get to that higher level, it's more about collaboration amongst your peers,
That's good. That's really good. And staying in that learner's mindset, right?
Yeah.
As you do that. That's powerful. It's powerful.
Learning's the best, right?
It is.
It's literally what drives you.
Yeah. But at the same time, I would say it's so helpful to prioritize learning versus so many people get taught sharing and telling what you know is how you get seen, recognized, and elevated in organizations versus being and staying in that learner's mindset, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance that is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. It's interesting. We just had a meeting at SDTA, and I've been on this journey of literally learning.
Yes.
And so it's a staff meeting, and I go and I say, hey, this is everything. I downloaded what I learned.
Yes.
And I did it at super granular, right? At like anyone could understand. And I still don't know. I asked a couple of people how it resonated because, someone gave me coaching that said, bring it up a notch so they don't get into the detail. But Daniel doesn't learn. I learned down here. And so that's how I give it back, is I learn it and then I share it.
Yes.
It's not necessarily what I'm doing, but it's, again, I think it makes me human and connectable.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and to your point, it allows you to be heard at all levels of the org chart, as opposed to, I've got to find some multisyllabic words in order to, prove how smart I am.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Fears. As a leader, how do you manage or impacted by your fears of others? How do you navigate and negotiate that?
Oh man, I hate fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always, I don't know. I've always just felt like I was going to fail.
Okay.
Right. The feel of failure is awful. The fear of letting people down, that's probably even worse. And so for me to get through that, it's all in your head, right? It's all a game and it's all a story. And so meditation for me is really important to separate a little bit. And exercise is also really important. So just getting the story of fear out of your head is one.
Yes.
For others, it's coaching exactly like I do it for myself. Like, go take a breath.
Yes.
But it's also helping them unload some of that fear. Okay, so validating whether what they're feeling is really what the fear should be, right? And so showing them a path out is in my mind right. But yeah, the fear of failure is it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I'm brand new. I'm on the honeymoon phase right now, and there's times where I'm thinking, is that the right way to think about that? And so I got to make sure I get out of my head.
Yeah. It's so powerful because I'm thinking about someone I was speaking to who said they like to use their fear as data, right? To say, what are my concerns? What am I responsible for? What are the outcomes I'm driving towards? And what are the outcomes I'm wanting to avoid?
Yeah.
Right?
That.
To your point around unpacking the fear, to view it not solely as an emotion, but to view it as emotion informed by data.
Yeah. I think and then when you pull the data out, the fear is going to go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think there's a myth that somehow as you move up the org chart, fear becomes less.
That's definitely a myth. That's by far a myth.
Right?
Oh, man.
You mentioned your mental health. What do you do to maintain and manage your mental health?
So for me, I'm a runner.
Okay.
I love to ski too with the family. That's super important. I try to get 12 to 15 days a year skiing in. I'm a runner and try to run 5 to 6 days a week. Not necessarily far, just that runner's high when you finish, and you're taking a big gulp of water, like that just feels good. And it sets your day right. I can't run when the sun's up, by the way. So it's got to be dusk or dawn, I should say.
Got it.
It can't be sunny and San Diego.
No.
It's got to be a little chilly.
Early morning.
Yeah, early.
Got it. Got it. Very good. Very good. Well, Daniel, it's clear that we could continue talking.
No question.
And I'm just blown away that like pretty much an hour has passed by.
That's amazing.
It has been a great conversation. If I'm going to invite you to kind of share what are one or two things you hope people watching this podcast leave with as a takeaway.
So I'd say two things.
Okay.
I'd say one, vulnerability.
Okay.
The ability to connect with people and be real, and let them know where you are. I think is really important.
Okay.
The connecting with people and your vulnerability helps you connect better, right? So I think that's one. And the two is to just keep that process of building and adding new creativity in your organization, right? So if something's working, maybe break it and rebuild it, right? So don't do it all at one time, but that's what makes it fun when you can find new business lines or new things that are creative and drive your business.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. This has truly been insightful. I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty, and really part of our goal is to support your leadership journey as a viewer, right? To be able to bring top leaders like yourself, Daniel, to the LeaderSHYFT Secret so that we can learn through the experience of others to improve and take ourselves and our leadership to the next level. I appreciate you staying with us, and we are committed to continuing to bring phenomenal conversations with top leaders to the LeaderSHYFT Secret podcast. Want to invite you to like, subscribe, and comment on our YouTube channel, and we will see you next episode. Thanks.